Hello everybody, my name is Kara on Fire and welcome to my Dune Awakening Deep Desert base. The first part of this video will be me going over how to build it, what sizes you need, and how are certain things put together. And then the second part will be a tour of the base, so if you want to skip ahead and use the chapters, feel free to do that. That second part will explain why I have things like they are. You might be questioning why I have pentashields like that, or certain things in certain places. So without further ado, if you like what you see, smash a like on the video, but let's get into it. When you're first putting this together, I recommend a nice flat spot, and you are going to start in the corners. You do not want to place the foundation too close in the corner as it might interrupt the walls, so you want to put it with a little bit of spacing in between. Once you got your perfect spot, you are going to build 9 in each direction, so you just follow me along in the video. So that entire line is 10, and then we do the same on all the sides, which will mark out your perimeter and your boundary for now in the solidos. Keep doing this until you have achieved a 10 by 10. Once you have done this, go to each of the corners and add another one on the inside to make a cube on each of the corners. If you've done it correctly, this is what it should look like after you've finished. Now we've done that, we're heading to the insides of these little corners and we're going to build all the way across, all the way around. Once you've done this, you're actually going to delete the solidos you first placed to mark out your 10 by 10 on the outside. So we're going to delete these inner ones here on the outside and then fill the ones in that you've placed just now, and this will mark your wall on the bottom floor. I've done it this way to give the build a bit more depth and make it a little less cubic. If you've done it correctly, it will look exactly like this to give you a good reference. All the other sides of the build are pretty much the same on the bottom floor, but the front is different, so we're going to start there. We need some ramps so we can drive the buggy inside, and let me show you how I build the front area to give it a bit of a cover on the front. So you're going to start with a wall on the side and then build it across. Once you got those supports, you can then build it down so it covers up the ramp and it looks quite nice and snug. You're going to put it one more up so it is too high and then cover it with a ceiling of your choice, because this will mark the second floor area on that ceiling. Then to make it look a little bit more like an archway, I'm going to put these covers on them. One thing you always want to do once you've placed the subfief down, and this is going to be something you really want to remember for the solido, is move the subfief outside. It will be absolutely fine out here for now, but we're going to place it in just like this little alcove because this is where we're going to put our detailed pillaring, and it will be fine there. Now you're going to mirror this on both sides of the door, but we're going to build the window area, and it's just like a fancy thing. You don't need it structurally, but it's just something to make it look good. So you're essentially flipping the pillars the wrong way up to make this kind of weird 8 shape, and then for a bit of support to bring it back down to the ground, you're just going to put a big pillar underneath so it connects. Once you've done that, head to the other side and fill in the space behind it with whatever you like. I'm going to put windows so we get some nice light traveling into the area, and then make sure to put your roof covers on the front so it gives it a bit more detail. Mirror this on the other side of the door, and then you have your 2 window areas. Now let's take care of the corner pillars, and this is where we'll be storing our water area. These are pretty easy. We're just going to put them too high and make sure they're all in there. So yeah, we're just covering this box area really and leaving the corner. Once you've done that, we are now going to do the other sides. So this is something you mirror around the other 3 sides. We are going to connect the rooftops to the other side where you can build up your pillars and do the same design. So you can fill all the towers out with 2 high like walls, and that will do the trick. Underneath these, you're pretty much doing the same design as well, the little weird 8 shape, the A or 8 shape, whatever you like, just for some detailing, and then we're going to put the pillar underneath to finish it. Once you've made those, you can now place a wall behind this section to cover it off, so it'll look a lot like this, or whatever wall you want to put there. Make sure you mirror this, and then you'll have your exterior walls for the bottom floor all done. Next, you'll be heading upstairs, and you're going to be putting all your rooftops on for the second floor, Make sure to leave room for a stairwell somewhere. I have mine very near the pillars, so it'll be roughly about here where you want your stairwell. And now we're going to build our corner pillars. You can actually put the corner walls on, and this is why we wanted a little bit extra space than putting the foundation right up against the wall. So you can place things like this without the sub-thief like freaking out that there's not enough room. You're going to place 4 of these curvy walls up high, and then on the other side you're going to put some doorways. Once you've done that, you can crown your king at the top with any hat of choice that you like to cover up the top part. If you ever need to expand the space you have, or maybe have some like more carrier storage on top by using the staking units, this will be the area you want to put a flat ceiling and then put a staking unit down and then put the rooftop on. Once you've done that, that will be it, and it basically perfectly fits this guild base in that square, which is really nice. From there you can build the supporting wall for the pentashield that's going to go on the rooftop. On the other side of the tower, you're going to build a wall 1 in instead of 1 out, and this will be the shelving area where you put your power. This will go all the way across to the other side, and it will be 3 walls in a row high with 1 space underneath, so you can put the pentashield there so you can access all the consoles. For the back wall, it is a little bit different because this is where I envisioned parking things like assault copters, and then we have our little room that's going to store the large spice refinery in it and give it a cover, because otherwise you can get stuck if you leave it uncovered. So this is like the little just parking bay we have on the outside, and there's a spare unit area for some more wind traps. So you have a 3 along, a 2, and then another 3 along, and that will do the back section. On the tops of all these areas where we store the power, I've also put this little roof decal up here. You don't have to do it, but it's just something I wanted to do for the design of the building. Again, it's another one of those things that make it look a little less boxy than it would without it. And this is roughly what your shell should be looking like on the top once you've done it. Now comes the pentashields. So we're going to use that little supporting divot that we made last time and bring it to the other side, which you don't really see, but trust the process, it is there. You hold it down, you place it, and then make sure to switch it to guild access. Then we're going to do the big front one. I'm going to drag it from corner to corner and then hold down our mouse button to build. And then we're just going to do this for all the open windows on the top floor. There's also one on the bottom floor as well, which is our door for the buggy hole. This should give you the main building blocks that you need to complete the base. We are now going to move on to the tour section where I show it all over and explain it. So let's start with the front, shall we? The main thing I wanted with this base is for it to not be flat, so I made sure on all sides that it had a little bit of indenting and design. This was mainly because I wanted something that looked good and it wasn't like a complete just blank box. I wanted something that looked nice and, you know, something very functional at the same time. And I think I've kind of achieved what I wanted here. Now, this base has been through a lot of changes, and certain things change depending on where we have to put it in the week. Like for this week, we had a really unideal spot, and I had to put in extra ramps on this front part to get it in, since we had some really uneven terrain to put the guild base on. However, you can make it very functional once you got your leader with it, and it's pretty good that way. So heading on inside, we have the main lobby room. This is where we have our large spice refinery, which is very helpful. You can actually fit 2 spice refineries in here if you really wanted to, or multiple. I was thinking of having a couple on the corners if you wanted to put 2 in. Main thing is it's very spacious for anything you need. There's a couple holes in the front, which is really good for parking buggies and scout ornithopters. You can fit a scout ornithopter through this door, which is very handy if anybody needs to quickly store it away. We also have a large refinery, which is really going to be good for melted down the plastinium, which you need a lot of in the end game. Something else that's super essential is these death stills, and we probably could do with some more if we wanted to go really mental, but for now this seems to do the trick. The guildies have been very good with this, filling them up and then delivering the tampons as well. Yes, I call these tampons because well, maybe you don't want to know. I don't know. You might be curious about the water storage in this space, and with the depth stills here we can actually store 1 million water in this space in total. Well, actually we can probably have a lot more, we just need to put some more water drums down, but let me show you where we've stored all the water storage in the space. So if you come into these pillars on the corner, they're not just aesthetic looking, they actually can store 4 of these big large water tanks in them at a time. And it's probably a better example if I show you the other side in this room. Here you can see all 4 in here, and these are really handy, these large cisterns, because they will hold a bunch of water. And we have 4 areas you can place them and keep them, which means a ton of water for the base. We've got 4 in that room, 4 in that room, 3 in the other room, and then I don't think there's one in this room at the moment, but we definitely could put more in this room if we really wanted to. At the moment what we got really suits the base, it seems to be fine, and then just each week we upgrade it or change a little something and improve it. So there's where you store all the water for the depth stills for your tampons to get put in there, and then you can melt up some nice plastinium and spice melange. I suppose enough speaking about the bottom deck and anything you could add to it. You can add a heck of a lot down here if you really wanted to. It's nice and spacious, plenty of room. But let's head upstairs and have a look at this deck instead. There's a couple of stairwells up. They actually moved them further to the wall so people would be able to get in and out a bit easier. But here is the upstairs. Now with my dream with this base, it was I wanted a skybox kind of design to be able to look out and see what's around you. So you can see if the sandstorm's coming, and I just liked it design wise. I know you could use a lot less power with less pentashields, but I just really like the idea of this, and then getting this monster in the carrier, having this and that is quite essential. But I just like it this way. It's mainly design purposes wise, have these pentashields, and then just ease of getting in the carrier. Now with this base, you can store a lot of flying vehicles and whatever else in here. These bays in the front were originally made for parking assault ornithopters, but at the moment they seem to be, sandcrawler parking, which is fine as well. It's just whatever works out that way, and that's fine. So you can fit 2 carriers in here, 2 crawlers, and you can fit a bunch of thopters in here as well. Assault thopters fit just fine, and you can also park under the tails of the carriers, like in between this little space here. You can park ornithopters here. If you wanted to store more, you essentially can. We do actually have a staking unit on the top of this one this week. This design is made to fit without a staking unit, but we had to put it on some really rough terrain, so we needed one on the top, which is why we used one this time around. But yeah, if you wanted more carrier space, you essentially could just use some more staking units and expand it out to make more room for carrier units. Or what my guild has done is they've built a couple of boxes nearby, like those 2 boxes and that one, to store their carriers within the actual boxes. Because lots of people want carriers, and lots of people want to be farming their beautiful truckloads of plastinium ore. This little design is on the top just for design, honestly. Like, it's just something that looks cute on the base and makes it look a little less boxy, which is why it's the thing. It's not a necessary thing to have these roofs, but I thought it would just be nice to have them in there to give it a bit of a, a bit of quirky designs. We have these pentashields on the side so you can easily access the wind turbines. I find it a bit more annoying when you don't have like something accessible like this, so I quite like being able to have a pentashield walk through and just easily access it. On these sidebars, now there's 3 of these sidebars. You can put anything you like. We mainly put power on there because our main way of getting water in the DD is using the depth stills, which seems to do us just fine, but maybe you want to use some wind traps, which I guess you could use it as well, but I mainly use depth stills. Yeah, you got plenty of areas for power and water, so you have that side, you have this whole back side. Well, technically if you're using the back bits for assault parking, you could use these 2 windows here, and then you'd come around to the other side, which is exactly the same as the other side I just showed you, with lots of turbines on the side for tons of power. You might be wondering, what is this little room that people could park a couple of copters on top? Yeah, you can park a couple of scout ornies up here, or an assault if you really wanted to. But this is for the spice refinery. Now, one thing you need to know about this little hat for our spice refinery is you need to build this first, and then you build the hat second, and then it will fit inside. If you try to do it the opposite way, where you build the building first and then the spice refinery, then it doesn't fit. So when you're putting this in, you need to at least remove this, and the entire hat up top to fit this in. So that's basically what you want to be cautious of when you're doing it, if you're trying to replicate this build, which if you want to, you're absolutely welcome, feel free. I find it works really well, so you could build it however you like. You could build it in a Harkonnen set, you could build it in a Chome set if you wanted to. I just use the Atreides because I think it looks really nice and I really like it. So what I do every DD wipe is, well, I get a Solido out, I take a copy, and then I just paste it for the next one. I have a ton of Solidos, so I could just take a nice copy of it, and then there we go. That's all we need for next week. Because the DD resets weekly on a Tuesday morning for me, this base has to be picked up every week, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but if you got more hands, it's definitely extremely helpful. But it's all worth it because it means we can craft a lot of things locally in the deep desert, which is extremely needed and helpful and a really good thing and process to have. It's much more of a pain in the ass if you have to haul back and forth things from Hagar Basin to the deep desert when you're farming here weekly. So yeah, I hope this base design gave you some inspiration for your deep desert builds. Let me know if you're going to use it in the comments down below, or what kind of things you would change with it. I'd be very interested to hear about it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little inspirational building video. Thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.